Hi there, it's Hyacinth Fraser here from Property in Action. Please do subscribe to my channel and hit the notification bell to be informed of more videos.
Sounds good.
Hi there, Lee. Thank you for being in conversation with me on Property Talk. Lee Warren. Lee, can you just say something a little bit about yourself, what you do, how you got into your property journey?
Yeah, hi there. Well, as you just said, I'm Lee Warren. I run two businesses. One of them is a consultancy firm which supports new and experienced property developers in helping them with their analysis and their risk assessments, and just generally helping them with developments. New people coming into the industry are interested in maybe progressing from smaller strategies up to developments or conversions. So I support them in that journey. My experience sort of started back in 2002, where I started working with investment banks and asset management companies, sort of doing analysis and management. And so we've looked at working on property portfolios and also business acquisitions, culminating working with a large international construction firm, and sort of like was responsible for a number of projects there, up to about a £2 billion worth of GDV. So lots of experience in number crunching and understanding how to finance projects, etc.
Oh, so fantastic. Great. Lee, you mentioned GDV. Just talk to us a little bit about what that is.
So GDV, gross development value, that's the value really that we should be looking at to put on our sales. So what does the site or the properties that we're working on, what are they worth when they're looking to be valued? In a development, if you're building a number of new units or converting units, you need to understand what that end sales value is going to be. So the gross development value is that value, and it can be obviously hopefully a lot more than what we're spending, and that's where we get our profit from. So it's integral to developments and property in general to understand, what we're buying. We buy at one price, but we want to sell at another. Yes. And typically the GDV will be that price that we sell at, or we hope we can sell at.
Okay, lovely. I'm just going to look off to the side. Got some questions for you. Just want to make sure we give lots of content. So considering investing in property deals with an estimated 25% return on GDV, just talk to us a little bit about why that 25%, at least minimum is important.
Well, it's important for a number of reasons. I mean, every developer, every person investing in property is going to have their own minimal level that they want to work to in terms of a profitability. But we're also stuck with the problem of what does our lenders and our investors, what's their minimum requirements? So some lenders won't lend to you below, if you're sort of looking to get into a project where the GDV and return is less than, say, 20%. But some of our investors also are looking for higher returns, and we need to match that against the risk profile of everybody involved. A lot of people want a high return, but they're only interested in lower risk, and that risk reward profile doesn't always match. So in order to make sure that we're going to achieve those targets, it all starts with stacking your deal and making sure that it does stack, and we use all the correct costs, build costs, professional fees, surveys, all the external works, and all those sorts of things that are involved in projects. Even big and small, if it's just a small buy-to-let, you may want to be doing something with the house, adding an extension, doing some more external works, some landscaping or something. But we need to be trying to add value somewhere. But in order to do that, we've got to make sure the deal stacks. Yeah. And so doing some simple analysis will really help us with that.
Okay, so you've mentioned deal stacking a couple of times. So what does that mean? Let's have a little bit of detail about that.
Okay, so deal stacking, it's fundamental. You find a deal, you've got to make sure that it's profitable and the risks are reasonable. So we've got to go through a number of tests and checks, and I group these into 6 different areas, and I call them the principles of analysis. So we need to make sure that our acquisition costs are correct first. And there's a number of things within acquisition. There's like the offer price, there's the stamp duties, there's the legals, there's any finance fees, etc. We also need to consider the building costs, and we typically call these hard build costs, the costs to actually put up the structure.
Mm-hmm.
Then we have softer costs, which will be things like surveys and professional fees, like your architects and your planning consultants, all those sorts of things. But also in there, we need to put in any section agreement fees like Section 106 or community infrastructure level fees.
Mm-hmm.
Everything needs to go in there. Then we have the GDV. We need to make sure we calculate that correctly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's probably 3 ways that I use to do that. There's like the pound per square foot, there's the pound value, and then there's getting some feedback from agents. But obviously it's all quite subjective.
Mm-hmm.
We need to look at the profit, the profitability. How are we measuring the profit? What metrics are we using? Are we using against the GDV or against the costs or on the return on capital? So there's a number of different metrics. And finally, we're looking at the financing aspect. So what fees are we going to pay? What interest are we going to pay? Any other conditions that the lender might place on us which might hinder us later, like fixed terms or rolling up interest and paying it at the front or at the back or monthly. Sometimes we need to assess all these things, and each of these 6 stages, if we get wrong at any point, then it can make the project unprofitable.
Okay, so we actually need to make sure we consider all of those elements that you've mentioned to us. You also mentioned there are some people, maybe risk averse. How would you set about de-risking projects?
There's many, many different ways. Some of them are quite obvious de-risking processes, but we need to look at the deal in general. And every time we go down an analysis, there will be risks that pop out. But some of the fundamental ones that I look at will be some things like planning. There's risk with different types of planning. The location we look to buy in. Is it the right place for what we want to build? What's the community like? What are the demographics like? We need to make sure that even though if we do a quick analysis, we do at some point a detailed analysis. We know every single minute detail of the costings. We need to look at sensitivity. And sensitivity is around how quickly can a price move from here to here, which could negatively impact the actual project. There's things like double checking all your numbers. That's like the biggest one would be making sure that the size of what you're building is correct. Your GIA, your gross internal area, if that's what you're working to, make sure that's correct. Because if it's wrong, all your other numbers are calculated off of that, and obviously will have a big impact. Things like conversions from meters to feet. I see people making those sorts of fundamental mistakes. Making sure we've got enough contingencies in and not too much.
Yes.
Some people put 25% contingencies in, which is huge, and other people put 1% contingency in, and it's not enough. So we need to get that right. There's also looking at trying to discount the GDV that we use to see how sensitive is that. If we were to take 5% off of our GDV, does the deal still work? Because it's quite easy in 12 or 18 months' time that our GDV might change. Working with the correct professionals, like your main contractor. Have you vetted them? Have you done your due diligence on them? Has the lender approved them? Other things, quite simple, like just checking the demographics. I think we kind of covered earlier. Making sure the offer price is correct. Don't, so once you've set your target for your offer price, don't go over it, because then you're eating something into your profits, and maybe you've got to then start bringing costs down elsewhere, which if you could have done that in the beginning, you would have done. Liquidity risks. These are just, is there enough people in that market to service your product, whether it's rentals or whether it's purchase and sale. Things like finance. Are you getting the right finance package? So that's just a quick snippet, although there's quite a few there.
Just quite a few, yeah.
Some of the risks.
That's quite a bit there.
What I'd be looking at as we're going through the analysis.
So can you just talk about the importance of buying based on whether the deal stacks versus buying on emotion?
Yes, well, sometimes, emotion is quite easy. It's a trap that you can quite easily fall into. I've been there myself. A very quick example would be I grew up in a town called Hinckley, and there's a couple of historic buildings there that I've tried to acquire over the years, and it's more of because it's from my hometown, more so than the actual development itself. I hadn't actually gone through with them, but emotion is a difficult thing because it makes us make decisions when we shouldn't. We want to move forward when we should hold back. It makes us not check as much with this checking the risks. And suddenly, if we're like a medium risk person and our team is medium risk, and by buying with emotion, you're just taking on more risk than you should do. And you only tend to see this later on when things start to go wrong, and some of those hurdles and obstacles you have to overcome during the development or the time that you're on the property, on the deal, become harder to overcome. So it needs to be a very objective purchase. Forget the emotion if at all possible. It is difficult not to, but that's what we need to do. It's with any investment, we should switch off the emotions and make the decision. So if that means stepping away for a few days or a few weeks and then coming back with fresh eyes, or even having a colleague on another project come in and take a look at the deal and say, you're not involved with this, but what would you do with it? Here's the numbers, here's the risks, here's the deal. What do you suggest? And then they can give some feedback on a very objective basis, hopefully. So there's some of the things I would probably look to do to rule emotion out of the deal.
Lovely, thank you. I know a lot of people viewing this will consider some of what you've said really technical stuff, and I know that you're out there supporting people one-on-one, you've got webinars, you do trainings. Is there anything that you want to share with us in terms of what you're doing shortly or on an ongoing basis?
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people are interested in understanding more or understanding better the analysis process. So we do. I'm running monthly workshops, and they're not sitting down and listening to talks for a day or two. It's hands-on, so people are expected to actually come along and get involved. So they bring a deal and they learn about the fundamentals of analysis on the first part of the day, and then after then, we're actually getting deals out on the table and we're crunching them. We're looking at the risks. We're trying to find different ways to make the deal work, and if it doesn't, we sort of like highlight that, and this is the risk. It's not going to make enough, and then obviously it's up to the client what they want to do. But these workshops are designed to help people better understand how to analyze deals. So we run them monthly. We're just actually this past weekend, we've just run them in London for the first time. So this is sort of middle of February 2019. So we're going around the country in a 3-month cycle. We're back in Kettering, running the monthly workshop on the end of March. Then we're going to the north. We haven't got a venue there at the moment, but we're looking at the Manchester area. And then we're back to London thereafter.
Lovely.
People love these, and they get somebody to work with the deal on them. So very exciting.
How can people contact you, Lee?
Well, I'm on Facebook.
Or,
Yeah, you can find me at Lee Wazzy Warren on Facebook. That's my personal profile, which a lot of people know me from. I've also got a business page there, which is Lee Warren Consulting. You can also get me via email at lee@leewarrenconsulting.com.
Okay, lovely. Lots of great content, Lee. Lots of great content. Thank you so much. So I'm going to ask people to subscribe and hit the notification bell to get more videos in the future. Thank you so much.
Wonderful. Thank you very much for having me and chatting and talking through property and analysis. Great stuff.
Welcome.